Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Rochelle.
And my name is Al.
And we're here today to talk about farming games. Woo!
Woo.
Yeah.
Or whatever we feel like talking about.
Not Pokemon. This is not a Pokemon podcast.
No. Unless you're a patron, in which case you might hear some Pokemon stuff.
Shh! Don't spoil it.
No, I mean, that'll already be out by the time this episode comes out, Rochelle.
Yeah, so I guess if you really want to hear us talk about Pokemon, you gotta join our Patreon and get that free bonus podcast feed where we talk about Pokemon.
Yeah.
But if you are here for farming news and farming games, we have a day set up for you. And by day, I mean episode. So today we're going to be talking about our Doraemon Story of Seasons challenge that we did. But before that, we're going to give you a little bit of what we've been playing. We're going to go through your favorite section, the news, and then we're going to do it. That almost worked. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Al, what have you been playing recently?
Well, I've been playing a lot of Doraemon Story of Seasons. Surprise, surprise.
Of course.
I did the usual thing where I was chugging along pretty well, doing my challenge in the right amount of days every day to make sure that I'd get it all done in time, and I completely fell over. Spent far too much time catching Milkery, and I never caught up. So we decided to pull it down to just the end of fall rather than the whole year. So I managed to finish that like 2 days ago. Right, I had a whole 2 days in it. Wouldn't have managed to do all winter in that time, but I had a little bit of time before this episode, and I was getting back into some shiny hunting in Pokemon.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Any particular Pokemon you're hunting?
I was hunting Rookidee specifically, but I took a slight detour today because I've been part of a group that's trying to get all the new Pokemon in all of the what we commonly refer to as bank balls, but they're not all bank balls because it includes the Beast Ball, which never came before Pokemon Bank. It's mostly the Apricorn balls and a couple of extras.
And the Beast Ball, which is the second best ball.
It is a very good ball, and it works really well for the Rookidee line. So I, although I already have those done, that's not what I was doing. I was doing the Roly-Coly line, which it also works really well for. So I took a slight detour breeding some Roly-Coly for distributing to other people. And yeah, so that's about it. Some Pokemon and some Doraemon Story Seasons. What about you, Rochelle?
That's fun. Well, in case you couldn't tell from the fact that I didn't mention it on the last episode, I only started the Doraemon challenge about middle of last week, which was a mistake.
You gave yourself less than a week.
I technically I gave myself 8 days. I binged this game real hard to get to the end of fall. I literally finished fall last night sitting in the car in the parking lot before I went to work. I have binged myself into misery on this game. I'm going to need to take a break from it for a while. I made my mistakes and I accept my fate. Part of the reason why is because I was so caught up in Stardew Valley, I couldn't leave it. And then, what did I even do? I think I just didn't play games for a few days. I did occasionally dip into a little bit of Pokemon, but not for the same reasons as you. I was mostly doing trading of Pokemon, so I got a gift from a beloved friend who bred me a beautiful, gorgeous, shiny Applin, and I was very excited, and I love it. So I ended up trading for that, and that was a funny story. Because I wasn't told I was being gifted a shiny. I was just told, like, here's a good applin for breeding for you to get a shiny. And so I was being a jerk, and I was like, well, thank you for breeding this for me. I'm going to give you a shiny. And so I gave this person a shiny and then immediately exited so they couldn't complain or try and trade it back. And they were like, oh, no, wait, I had another Pokemon for you. No, please come back. Why did you give me a shiny? No, but please. And so I ended up trading them again, just a nonsense Pokemon for a shiny. So we both rudely surprise traded each other a shiny, and that was hilarious. And I, rather than Pokemon and bank balls, I am notorious for, I have a horde of Hoopa that I trade out to people.
A horde of Hoopa.
Yeah, that's accurate. So what happened when Hoopa was released in the US, it was done like you would go to a McDonald's and connect to their Wi-Fi. And
yes, that was the McDonald's one. Yeah.
Yeah, and turns out Hoopa's one of my favorite Pokemon. Spoilers for the greenhouse episode. So I'm not going to lie.
It doesn't count as spoiler if they've already listened to it.
Yeah, and also if you don't know Hoopa is my favorite Pokemon, then I'm doing a bad job of communicating, honestly, because it definitely is, and that I feel like is a well-known fact about me.
I think it is.
Yeah, but I kind of sat down for 12 consecutive hours in a McDonald's, and I just like ate French fries and downloaded a Hoopa and then uploaded it to bank and then reset the game and downloaded a Hoopa, etc., etc. So I had a literal horde of them that I just hand out to people. I love giving them to people. When I was a kid, I never got like the distribution Pokemon as a kid because I could never access that. It was never something I could do. And so like my train of thought at the time was I want to make sure everyone can always have my favorite Pokemon because it brings me joy and I want it to bring other people joy. And it's been years. Like I think Hoopa was released 2015, 2016. I'm still doing that. I did that recently. It was very fun. It was nice to open up X and Y again. Turns out my game, I had been doing a Nuzlocke, and I had all of the friend rivals call me Natalie, so that was weird. That was a surprise. So I did that for a little bit. Nostalgized through my Pokemon and traded people some Pokemon, so...
Fair enough.
I'm still catching up in Zombies Run. I've made a lot of game related mistakes recently, so that's what I've been playing, I guess.
Cool. Let me tell you, I spent a similar sort of time back in, it must have been 2013 or 2014 when the it would have been 2014. The Charizard events came out, and they were a Wi-Fi event, and I spent a ridiculous amount of time sitting on a bench outside the game store near my work every lunchtime for the whole time the event was out. Just, yeah. I do not have time for that nowadays, so I'm glad that those sorts of events don't really happen very much anymore. It's mostly codes. It's much easier to go in and just get a bunch of codes.
Yeah, give me a code. Give me a mystery gift. I much prefer that.
But this is not a Pokemon podcast.
No, it's not. Sorry for talking about Pokemon. I just really love Pokemon. Let's talk about the news.
Yeah.
Oh, heck. Al, are you ready for FarmCon 2020?
I am ready. I am so excited for FarmCon 2020.
Yeah? You want to tell me about it?
Is this because I've put this into the show notes and you only saw it half an hour ago? And
Yes.
FarmCon 2020. FarmCon is the esports event run by Giant Software, who make Farming Simulator. Mm-hmm. So they've confirmed the dates for this year's FarmCon. It is the 16th to the 19th of July in Germany, and there is a €100,000 prize for this competition.
That's so much money.
So if you think you might win competition in Farming Simulator, get on down to Germany and play the Farming Simulator. We both own the game now. I don't think either of us played it yet, have we?
Look, I was hardcore binging Doraemon Story of Seasons. I'm sorry.
We'll get there eventually. We don't really have... Well, we do have an excuse. The excuse is this week is when all the games start coming out. But we don't have the excuse of we don't have the money for the game anymore because we have the game. But anyway.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Speaking of all the games coming out, here's some information about games that might be coming out at some point in the future.
Yeah. 2 new games from the developer of Stardew Valley Concerned Ape. One of them is supposed to be not a farming game. It's not supposed to be a farming game, but it is supposed to be set in the Stardew Valley world. And the other is supposed to tie into Stardew somehow, and we don't know.
It's so ridiculously vague. It all just comes from a tweet from Concerned Ape, which is then immediately responded to, like, you know, a couple of hours later saying, I see this is blowing up. Please don't get too hyped.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it's still just Concerned Ape, right? Like, and he worked on Stardew for a number of years, just quietly on his own without like
pressure,
hyping it out to people, and he probably wants to do the same thing. So
yeah, I guess the problem is it's all very well and good saying that, but when you've created, you know, one of the biggest hyped games that has come out in the last few years, like it's a massive game, really. I don't think you can really expect people to just kind of not get excited.
Here's a proposal I'm going to make that I've been making a lot lately. It's okay to be excited, but I think he's probably more warning against, like, don't get your heart set on whatever your idea of what this is. Because he's still working on it. It's not done. It's not nearly done. Like, I'm pretty sure he said he has, like, bajillions of hours left to put into making these games.
Yeah, he literally said thousands of hours left. Like, that's not, you know, thousands of hours is a long time.
Yeah. So, like, I would say, I don't know if this is how he feels, but I guess this would be how I feel, and this is my warning. It's okay to be excited. Like, I'm very excited to see what he comes up with because he's a good game developer. But the excitement is, I can't wait to see what he makes, not I can't wait to play Stardew Valley 2.0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, the chances are, you know, it's not going to be anything like Stardew. It may well use some of the characters, which I feel is what he's probably talking about when it's set in the Stardew world. But he explicitly said it's not a farming game. So
yeah,
probably means we shouldn't be talking about it.
I can think of a lot, like, having played, like, there's clearly a larger world than what we see. There's clearly stuff that goes on outside of Stardew Valley that is occasionally, where's the train going? Or just, like, what war was Kent in? Like, for all we know, it's a first-person shooter. Like,
Oofed.
you know, don't get your heart set on anything. But be excited. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've also got some news about Littlewood.
The best news about Littlewood.
Who doesn't love romance options?
Whoop, whoop.
All of the romance has been put in. And Littlewood's almost done at this point, isn't it?
Ooh, I don't know. I know that Sean has said that the 1.0 update is the next big update. But I don't think he said what needs to be in before that. So let's not start saying it's going to be ready next week. No, it'll probably still be a few months. But I think it's probably in terms of months rather than longer than that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was, 1.0 came out in the end of Q2 or something like that. But this is entirely speculation. Please don't quote me on any of this. But I think this was one of the bigger things that was missing. I think there aren't a huge number of features missing. It's mostly just dialogue and stuff like that. But yeah, it's exciting. I think this was certainly one of the bigger things missing when we played the earlier versions for our last episode about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to get to that again.
Me too.
And maybe we'll have more to talk about Littlewood in the near future. Who knows?
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
All right, Al.
Speaking of games that are coming out.
I'm excited that you're the one who put this on the list.
Look, Rochelle, when I get into a game, and I'm not saying I'm into the game yet, but when I get into a game, I go all in. I don't get in by half, right? So I have decided that I am going to like Animal Crossing, right? That's it. I've decided it's happening.
Yes.
Right? Because I
mean, how can you not after like the direct that just came out? Did you watch the direct that just came out?
I watched the direct, and there's one thing that convinced me that this could be a good game. And do you know what that thing is, Rochelle? Can you guess what that thing is?
I mean, I can because you put it in the show notes. Do you want me to?
Land sculpting. I don't know what the actual proper term is, but like, landscaping. There we go. Right, let me try that again.
Yep.
Landscaping, Rochelle. Landscaping.
I'm also really excited for the landscaping, which if you didn't, dear listener, watch the direct. First of all, watch the direct. Carve out half an hour of your time. It's worth it.
It is a very it's a very packed direct. It's not one of these like frilly, it's going to be half an hour, but there'll be 2 pieces of information in it. There's a lot of stuff in it.
Mm-hmm. Basically, there is a function in the game where you can get a permit to literally landscape. So you can change the direction of the rivers. You can build cliffs. You can cut out cliffs. You know what I mean? Like, you can literally shape the literal land. I don't know if you don't know this because you're probably not really into Animal Crossing before this, but part of my thought on this is that they're probably doing this in an effort or in like feedback from people on the 3DS who would alter their save files. And one of the big things that people would do about that was changing the shape of their town.
Yeah.
Like changing where the river went and things. And that's probably, I think, them saying, well, people are doing this and we don't want them to be hacking into their system and stealing their save file, so let's just let them do it in the game in a legal way.
I mean, it feels like a logical progression based on other things they're doing in this game, right? So one of the big things that I heard from people was they hated how villagers would just make their homes wherever they felt like it, right? And you couldn't decide where they were going, despite the fact that in that game you were the mayor, and you presumably have less control, or you should lore-wise have less control over this island, right? But so that's something that they're adding, the ability to be able to choose where villagers' houses go. And I guess this is just kind of the next logical progression. And, you know, kind of the island theme of it is probably the ideal way to introduce that. It's like, here's an island that we're building up, and I don't know whether I missed something in the direct. I don't know whether you seem like you're just another person there, right?
Yes.
Like you're just, you know, Tom Nook is running the island and you just happen to be there. But I guess that's why you get this permit. Then you have the control to be able to do that. But it just kind of makes sense. It's because it's an island, right? It would be less logical to do that with a town.
Yes and no, because like in New Leaf, you could build like public works projects. So like you could put up a fountain or a bridge or whatever. And that was kind of... Yeah,
but that's different from actually changing the shape of the land.
Yeah, which is why, like, from my perspective, it's partially what I said about like watching how people were editing their save files. I mean, that was one of many reasons people edited their save files. But, and I think the other stream of that is seeing people want to customize things. I don't know if you know this. There was another 3DS game in the Animal Crossing family that wasn't like a straight up Animal Crossing game. It was called Happy Home Designer, where
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so the entire game was essentially the decorating aspect of the Animal Crossing game, where you would have all these villagers and they'd be like, I want you to decorate a house for me. And then you'd go and you'd decorate this little house for them. And one of the things you could do was like put furniture outside, and people were like so excited about that. And so it feels like almost like an extension of that as well, of just like, oh, you want to be able to decorate and change everything, not just what's inside of your house.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And then they just like double down on that. And they're like, oh, that's what you want to do? Here you go. And I'm just like, oh, thanks. Like,
yeah, I mean, it makes sense in terms of gameplay. I wasn't debating that. It was just in terms of like sort of lore in it. Then the island style makes more sense than a town style, right? Because it's much easier to kind of reshape an island than it is to reshape an existing town. But yeah, certainly in terms of gameplay, it makes perfect sense, and it's just a logical next step, right? You just want to be able to control everything, really.
Yeah. And now you can control more, and you're not the mayor.
Yeah. Yes, that's very funny. but you all know my opinion on the mayor storyline, so yes, we don't need to go into that again.
I think this one, it looks like you apply to a package to go live on an island and help develop an island, and I think it looks like you start with 2 villagers from the direct. So
yeah,
I'm so excited for you to play this game. Like I'm gonna have like so many questions. Like,
I mean, I am legitimately excited to play it. I think it will probably take some adjustment, because I do think that the big thing that I have missed previously is getting it into my head that it's not just sit down and play it sort of game. It is play it a little bit each day, and I'm gonna have to get into that kind of mindset, I think. But I am excited for these new features. They kind of make it closer to the sort of game that I would want to play. And yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. But yeah,
I'm so excited, and I'm so excited that you're excited. Like through the roof. We have to stop talking about this. You know what else is coming out?
Or is out.
Rune Factory 4 Special Edition. Go buy it. It's out. By the time you're listening to this, it's been out for a while.
Yeah. If you're in America, it's out as we're recording it, and if you're elsewhere, it will be out by the time you hear this. So, yeah.
So go play that or not. I think we'll probably cover that soon.
Yeah.
Now that it's out.
I'm sure we will. It'll be a while. We've got a few episodes lined up before that, and we need a decent amount of time.
Yeah, you gotta let us play it before we do it, because I could just go straight into the game, but Al could not. So, and we don't need another entry right now into
Rochelle just explains things.
Rochelle's Great Courses Plus series on Rune Factory. So that's out, and that's the news.
Woo!
Wow. You want to talk about this challenge we did?
Yeah, let's do it. So, we're going to start off by going through our results, because I quite like the idea of just getting the results up and done at the beginning. So then we can talk openly about how our strategies were, so we don't have to try and, not give away what our points are at that point. So we'll do results, and then we'll do what our strategies were. We're going to talk through any challenges we came in doing that. And no, I don't mean I left it too late and I had to spend it every waking hour playing it. And
that was me.
And also if there are any things that doing this challenge has opened our eyes to new parts of the game, because obviously we both came into this game at the same time. Neither of us had played it before. The other one did, so it'd be interesting to see if there are any things we came across that were like, oh, that's interesting, I didn't have that as something to talk about in the episode we did last year with Micah.
Agreed.
All right, so how I want to do results is, Rochelle, I would like us to go through some different sections and say how many points we have in each particular section, and then we will figure out who has won based on the total. So the sections would be, I would like to know how many hearts your horse has, assuming you have your horse. I would like to know how many hearts your dog has, assuming you have your dog. I would like to know how many hearts you have from other non-farmable animals. So I think the dog and the horse are the only ones that show up on your status page, aren't they?
Dog, horse, and cat.
Oh, cat as well. So that may well give you a clue as to how many hearts I have for the cat. So I'd like to know the cat as well. And then point how many total for the other non-farmable ones, so like monkey, etc. And how many for your cows and sheep total, and how many for your chicken total. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect. So
All right.
essentially in the menu, there's 4 different tabs that
Yep.
these animals are spread across,
Yep.
and you just want to know the total for each tab?
Well, I want to know the ones on the status page. I want to know individually.
Oh, okay.
I think that'll be interesting as well.
I am down for that.
All right.
So
So we'll start off with horse. So I'll go first. I have, sadly, I'm so close. I have 9.5 hearts for my horse.
oh, I got you good. I got 10.
I'm not surprised. I should have had 10, but there were a few days that I forgot to go and brush my horse, and I'm so annoyed about that.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I see where this is going to go. Let's continue then. For the dog, I have half a heart.
Oh, no. So for the dog, I have 10. The dog... We'll get there on the strategies part.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We're just on numbers right now.
Can you guess how many I've got for the cat?
No! How many?
I haven't encountered the cat, so that's 0 for that one.
Well, I have the cat at 5.5,
Oof.
so
if
I'm winning real hard right now.
if my calculations are correct, then for the status page, I have 10 and you have 25.5.
Correct.
All right. So the next, let's go for the other animals first.
Which, for the listeners, are on the bottom of the... If you scroll to the very bottom of the person/animal page, that's where they are.
Yes. So Rochelle, would you like to go first for this one?
Sure. Do you want me to go animal by animal, or?
I mean, if you have enough animals to go animal by animal, you can do it.
I see how this is going. So for the bear, I have 7. For the rabbit, I have 7. For the squirrel, I have 7. And for the monkey, I have 7.
I have 0. So there we are.
Oh my goodness, Al.
So if I'm correct, I'm on 10 and you're on 53.5.
Correct.
Okie dokie.
I see how this one's going.
It's all right.
I was not expecting this.
Shall we go for the cows and sheep next then? So I guess we can say the total number of each animal and then just the total number of hearts for this page.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 1 sheep and 9 cows. So I have 39.5 hearts for my cows and sheep.
Oh. Okay. This entire thing is me being truly startled, by the way. Okay. I have 2 sheep and 3 cows.
Future Rochelle here because my audio recording messed up. I had 32.5 hearts for this section.
Wow. I don't think I'm going to manage to catch up on you, but here we go. So you may manage to guess that I have 10 chickens.
Oh my gosh.
And I have 54.5 hearts for my chickens.
Well, I have 5 chickens, and I have exactly 21 hearts.
Okay, so that gives you a total of 107 hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me a total of 104 hearts.
That is surprisingly close, all things considered.
I think... Okay, so my strategy certainly it didn't win me it, but it worked a lot better than it could have done. Whew.
It worked really well. So
That's so close.
I really barely beat you on this,
not
and we
expecting it to
clearly
be
had
that close.
drastically different strategies.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting this either. So let's talk about this. Talk to me about your strategy.
Okay, so I did the usual of looking at all the animals that you can encounter and like, okay, right, how do you get all those? And to be honest, I looked at all the conditions to encounter all the animals and went, I just can't be bothered doing that, right? Because most of the requirements for getting to know animals is getting hearts with villagers, and I don't know why I just couldn't be bothered with with that. So what I decided instead might work well is if I just get, as I tried to go in bulk, basically. Get as many farmable animals as possible. Focus on my horse, obviously, because that's an important one to focus on. But just get as many animals as I could, and hopefully that would increase the number of hearts because I just have so many animals. Now, what's really annoying is I think I made one drastic mistake which lost me the game. And that is I forgot to keep check on my chicken feed. And I ran out of chicken feed. And on the day that I ran out of chicken feed, it was a day that you couldn't buy chicken feed. I was like, okay, that's not very good, but it's not the end of the world. I can buy chicken feed tomorrow. Now, the problem was the next day was a festival.
Oh, no. That is horrible timing.
So I couldn't buy chicken feed the next day. Now, Rochelle, do you know what happens if you don't feed your chicken 2 days in a row?
They get sick?
They get sick.
Oh, Al.
Do you know how depressing it is on the, I kid you not, it must have been the 28th day of fall, to walk into your chicken coop and it flashes up and says, chicken 1 is ill, chicken 2 is ill, chicken 3 is going through literally all 10 chickens and saying they're ill. And of course, because this is just how things work, that day, the doctor's surgery was closed.
Oh my gosh.
So I couldn't even cure my chickens until the next day after that.
Oh no, Al.
So, Rochelle, I had 3 whole days of not increasing my chickens' hearts.
That is truly tragic.
And I think some of them were so close to another half heart that I may well have just managed to pip it if I hadn't made that massive mistake.
Well, look at your life. Look at your choices.
Yeah, I should have kept more chicken feed. It's all my own fault. I should have bought more chicken feed, but I didn't. I was trying to spend as little money on those things as possible so that I could, build up my farms. Now, let me tell you this. The interesting thing is obviously the default chicken coop and barn, you can only get 5 animals in them. Mm-hmm. Do you know what the maximum number of animals you can get in each of them? I there may well be another level that I don't know about, but as of where I am in the game, can you guess how many you can get?
No.
It's 10.
Just 10.
It's only double. Now, it's possible because, I know there's a situation where, for example, you can get, if you don't have the inventor, you can only get your tools up to gold level and not any higher than that. So it's something I need to do before I can then upgrade the coop and barn again. But I don't know what that is, and I haven't Googled it. So I might do it at some point. But yeah, it seems odd that you can only get up to 10. And that's the other thing that would have won me the game if I could have upgraded further. But having said that, I probably didn't have enough time because I think my barn upgrade only finished on the 21st of fall, so it would have been very close trying to upgrade one of them and then buy enough animals to get enough of the hearts. Okay.
So your strategy was basically get the most animals possible.
Yeah.
This baffles me a little bit. I think because you did something I didn't even consider, which is like upgrading the barn and the coop, that's why I only have 5 in each of those categories, is because I was like, oh no, you got to do mining for that, and oh no, I'm not doing any of that. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, I decided I didn't have time for that nonsense, so I didn't do it. But what I did have time for was, so clearly my strategy was to unlock as many animals as possible. I clearly heavily relied on the unlockable animals.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that was because I knew it was going to be very easy to unlock them, because you can make friends so quickly in this game. Like, just literally doing nothing else, just talking to everybody. It's only like 5 or 6 characters you have to talk to every day to unlock all of them. And I didn't even talk to them every day. I just kind of talked to them whenever I remembered they existed. And I had all of those animals. I had every animal but the dog unlocked by the end of spring, just by talking to those villagers whenever I remembered they existed. So those were pretty easy to unlock for me, so I did that. And then I just bought as many animals as I possibly could and fit those in as well. I will say, it was about by the time I got to fall, I was regretting. The first 2 animals I bought were the 2 sheep. And I was like, this was a bad choice because so when you're upping your friendship with an animal, every different way in which you can interact with it will up its friendship level a little bit. So, like, for example, chickens, all my chickens are a lot lower than my cows and sheep because chickens, you can just give them a treat and feed them and talk to them. And that's 3 things you can do.
No, you can pick them up as
for
well.
example, I had days where I tried so hard not to pick them up because it's stressful.
Oh, well, yes. That I have a lot to talk about how you interact with animals, but we'll come to that.
But we're not there yet. We're talking about strategy. But like with, for example, the cows, you have the treat and the talking and the feeding, and also you can milk them every day. Because I bought all my cows last and they all have more hearts than my sheep do because you can just interact with them more. That's also part of the reason, like the horse is really easy to get its friendship up because there's like, you talk to them and you give them a treat and then you brush them and then you ride them and it's like, oh, they love you so much. The dog friendship goes up very, very quickly. And I noticed this especially between the dog and the cat. I got the cat first and it has, if you'll recall, I have 5.5 cat hearts and 10 dog hearts, but I got the cat first. I think it's just weighted. Like the dog just loves you a lot and it's really easy to up its friendship. And the cat is like a cat and it's just like, you must earn my respect.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
And takes more. So, and then it turns out like all of the wild animals are very, very easy to befriend. They're somewhere in between the dog and the cat, the way they're weighted, because you can give them a treat and you can talk to them every day and that's it.
Yeah.
But like I said, that 7 hearts in about 2 months for all of those. So.
Yeah. So I feel like I probably should have just, I looked at the dog and went, okay, I have to have 3 hearts with 4 people to get to the dog. And I was like, if this is how hard it is to get to the dog, it must be dreadful to get to the others. But I didn't think to look at them and realize people to get to the other ones.
Yes.
And if I'd done that, I may well have done that and absolutely thrashed you. But
yeah. Yep. The dog is the hardest to get of all of those animals.
That's ridiculous. Seriously?
Well, because okay, so the horse you obviously have to build the stable, which is fine.
Yeah.
But then all of the other ones, each of those animals, you have to just get a single villager up to 3 hearts. So like it's 3 hearts for Doraemon for the cat, or like Sue for the monkey, etc., etc.
Oh, I could have easily got them then. I just obviously didn't enter the right place at the right time for the cutscene.
Yep. Sorry, man. I will say the one thing that stressed me out is trying to find them on the map every day at a certain point because I'm just like, they're not always in the same place and you're just like, where are you? So
yeah, it's interesting. So obviously we're going to I'm going to compare the map to Trio of Towns. Mm-hmm. It's a better map, I think. Mm-hmm. But there's something about it that makes it feel like it should be even better. So the Trio of Towns map just shows like a single person in a single part of the town. Mm-hmm. And it cycles through them, so it flashes through the different faces, which was dreadful.
Yes. And
this one shows all the faces at the same time on a place, but it makes it look like they're at a specific place in that town.
What it is that it just has like a set place, like this is position 1, this is position 2, and it doesn't reflect where they actually are in the map. Exactly.
Which is fine when there's lots of people in a place and it's very clear, oh yeah, this is just in order, right? But when there's like one person in a place, it almost makes it look like it's in that particular place in the town, which always puts me off.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
I will say, by the end of it, I don't know if you know this, but I had to really crunch. I was going to bed by 10 or 10:30 a.m. every day. So I was able to get that routine down a lot, but not as much as it should have been. So, because most of it was like, so you wake up at 6. I was completely done with literally everything on my farm by 8 a.m. every day.
Right. So let's run through that then. So we've gone our overall strategy. What were you actually doing? So were you doing any crops? Were you doing? You've already said you weren't doing farming.
Okay,
what
so
were you
here's
doing?
this breaks down essentially into two different sections. So for spring, I was still trying to unlock and like build up my animal stash essentially. So
Yeah. So you need money for that.
yes, spring took the longest in terms of gameplay, and that's when I did the most. So I planted some crops because one of the other things you have to do to get the dog is you have to unlock the tool, the gloves.
Yeah.
The gloves gadget, and to do that you have to raise 3 different types of crops.
I think it's technically ship, isn't it? Ship 3 types of crops.
Probably. I shipped everything
yes.
anyway.
Yeah, it's just a small technicality.
So, yes. So I did the farming. What I did was there's like in the shop at the very beginning of the game, there's like a beginner set of seeds they'll give you for free.
Which is great.
Yes, it's a great, I love that feature. But it's like 20 of like 3 or 4 different crops. So I grew all of those. And then, so I would water my crops, and about halfway through the month, I was able to start really getting animals. So I'd take care of the animals. And then what I would do is I would forage literally everything on the whole map. And I did that until I had enough money to buy everything I needed. And then at that point, I stopped. Like by the end of spring, I was not doing that anymore. I was not foraging. I was not farming. I was just focusing on the animals. Summer and fall, like I said, it was just the animals. I would solely focus on the animals and then immediately go to bed as soon as possible to get through as many days as quickly as I could.
That's interesting.
Which is why, like, probably I think the crunch of it probably also impacted my score.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if I had not made my mistakes, I might have had more time to play, and I might have like gone mining to try and get enough to upgrade my barn and coop and stuff like that. But I didn't. So, how about you?
Yeah, so I think I spent far too much time with crops. So obviously, upgrading the coop and the barn and and building the stable, and for some reason I upgraded the house even though I ended up basically not using it. I thought it would be a good thing to do because then I could make some make some butter and mayo rather than just selling my eggs and milk. But I never ended up buying the whisk, so I didn't end up doing that. So it was just a waste of time, but whatever. So obviously I had to have a lot more money than you. And I also needed to spend a lot of time down in the mine. So most days I would get up, I'd water my stupid number of crops that I've bought to get lots of money. And then I'd do my animals, which by the end of the game was twice as many animals as you, so it took twice as long, although I have some gripes to have about the dealing with animals. And then I would do some time in the mine, sleep until like 8, and then spend the next couple of hours in the mine and then go to bed. So I would sleep for most of the day because of the napping feature, but I would still spend much more time because I needed to get the stuff from the mine to upgrade the coop in the barn. And I also upgraded my pick and watering can to gold level. I love that watering can at gold level. It's great. But yeah, like, I don't think in spring I bought any crops other than getting the free starter crops. But in summer and fall, I had a ridiculous number of crops.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted, because I needed to make sure I had enough money so that as soon as my coop and barn were upgraded, I could go and buy 5 more. And which I needed to do because, as I say, I only had the barn fully upgraded on day 21 of fall, so I didn't have the time to then go and get some more money. So thankfully, I literally, after buying the medicine for my chicks and buying all the cows that I could to fill up my barn, I literally ended that day with, I think, 100 left over.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a harsh day, and I was so glad I had just had the amount I did.
Wow. And
Um,
and you had a couple more days after that, right?
I did, yes, but it wouldn't have been enough to because those I think those cows ended up at 1 heart, so the half a
Yeah.
heart wouldn't have been as helpful.
I mean, you lost with like 3 hearts. It might have. But here's a question: how much money did you end with?
All right, so just the amount I currently have, not the total amount
Yes.
I've had in total.
Yeah, just current amount. Because of your strategy of like building up your farmhouses, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
I suspect you don't have a lot of money.
No. Have 25,000 left over.
That's not too bad. So
Yeah, I think I had a harvest like on my second last day.
yeah, I ended this game with 68,804 money, which I think is interesting because like you were doing a lot to earn a lot of money, but you were also spending a lot of money, so you
Yeah.
probably made significantly more than me. But
Oh, yeah.
like the bulk of that money, like I made more than 6,500 money, literally just from milk and wool and eggs.
Yeah. When you get quite a lot of money from that, like, you know, there were multiple days where I was getting, because I had the 10, like $3,000 a day just from eggs and milk, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good. That's one thing. Like if I was to play this game again, I might focus a little more heavily on animals because you make a lot of money that way really fast.
Yeah.
That was one thing I noticed. I was just curious about that. So there we go.
Yeah. So I guess that's how we did, and we've probably covered our challenges. So I want to talk about. So this is stuff I want to raise. So there's a few things I want to raise, and the chickens is definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So let me guess what it is you want to talk about. So the chickens will always sit on their eggs, so you have to move them out of the way to actually get the eggs. Right? They're so dumb. These chickens are so dumb. If you put if you put your chickens in the house, like all next to each other, in the morning, they'll still all be in the same place together, right next to each other. Why haven't they moved?
Because they hate you.
Clearly. They're also dreadful to try and pick up and move to get the eggs, because one thing that this game does really nicely is the outline on a Pokemon.
We're in Pokemon mode.
My word, my voice is going. We better wrap this up soon. The outline on an animal when it's the one that you'll be selecting. That's really nice, but also really buggy.
Yeah.
So, like, trying to select a particular one is really hard. And I've had multiple times where you talk to an animal and nothing else has happened. No animals has moved. You've not moved. You just clicked the button to talk to them, and the select changes to another animal.
I know what this is because this drove me up a wall the whole time. So what happens is that different ways that you have with interacting with animals will orient your character differently. So like when you give them a treat, it doesn't really care. It just gives them a treat. But then when you talk to them, you turn to face the animal you're talking to. And in that action of turning, you can turn enough that it moves the selection essentially up to the next animal. And that's really frustrating.
Yeah.
And that was basically most of my complaint. The other part, like, the other half of it was just like, I never upgraded my coop. So, like, it's a small area and you can't just put a chicken down anywhere. Like, there's big chunks of it where you can't put chickens down. And, like, I'm just like...
Not just that, but if you take them outside, you have to walk, like, 3 meters away from the
Why
door
would you
to
take
actually
them
be able to put it
outside?
down. Drives me insane. I think the one thing that Stardew did best is animals walking in and out of their coop and barn when it's appropriate, and me not having to do that all the time.
Agreed.
It's just really frustrating. Now, there is one extra feature in this game that I don't think you'll have come across, because I think it only appears when you upgrade the coop. I don't know whether you did that. Did you do that in your original playthrough? So when you upgrade your coop or your barn, you get access to a new item in the shops, the chicken and other animals shops, and it's a bell.
Okay, I am familiar with the bell because this has been in previous Harvest Moon games. So
Right, okay, so you ring the bell and the animals will come to you.
Uh-huh.
Great idea, terrible execution.
Yeah.
So what happens is, so first of all, there is a bell per animal, right? Not even a bell per like one for the coop and one for the barn. There's a chicken one, a cow one, and a sheep one. I don't know why they did this. I really don't know why there isn't just one bell, right? They're animals. They also the bell literally sounds the same in the game. Just make them all react to it, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, only like half of my animals reacted each time I did it. So I'd go into the coop and I'd ring it, and you'd think it's proximity, but it's not proximity. 2 of the ones near to me would do it, and then 2 of the ones at the other side of the coop would react to it and all follow me. And then I'd go out, they'd come out, and then I have to go back in and get the others.
Oh no.
Why can't all 10 of them just follow me at the same time? It's not, I don't understand it. The other thing, the final thing is, I really just wanted it to work when I stood outside the barn, outside the coop, right? The coop's doors are open, I'm ringing the bell, they can't hear me. Really annoying. So I had to actively go in, ring the bell, walk out, wait for them all to stop following me. By the way, they take ages to stop following you. So if you walk straight back in, they'll walk straight back in as well. And then walk back in, ring it again, get the other ones to follow you, and wait. Yes, it is quicker than picking up 10 individual chickens and taking them outside, but it's so frustratingly close to not being quicker that it feels like it's, really annoying. And then why is there a sheep one? Why is there a sheep one? It's just the most annoying thing. Why do the cows and the sheep not react to the same bell? They're in the same room. The sounds the same. Oh,
I'm sorry, man.
I think it's interesting because there's a lot of things that I've kind of come across, and I've got a couple more things to talk about, but I don't want to spend too much time on them. I think it's interesting what we've come across while playing like this that we didn't come across as much in our original playthrough.
A lot more of like it's a hyper-focused thing. So you're hyper-focusing on one aspect of the game. So you're more likely to notice things that impact that one aspect of the game.
Yeah. Before I go on other rants, do you have other things that you've realized in the game through this playthrough?
I realized that I love the map in the background and it's very pretty, but it's also really hard to distinguish, like, especially when you zoom out, like the smaller characters, like the animals, really hard to notice. Really hard to like physically see. So that was a little frustrating. Especially in the fall when everything's like really pretty, like shades of like browns and things like that. And you're like, you know what's also nice shades of brown? The monkey, the squirrel.
Yeah, probably not something that will annoy you in a normal playthrough. But yeah, when you're trying to make it as efficient and quick as possible and you're trying to find that tiny animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very frustrating. I think my biggest, because I have like a little small irritants, like the reorienting when you talk to an animal and things like that were pretty irritating to me. I think my biggest issue, and I think I touched on this when we did our Doraemon episode, but like my biggest issue is still the control mapping.
Yeah.
Which is just not good. I think that's the most diplomatic way I can put that. Like it's so frustrating that like a button will do different things with different animals when none of the setup has changed. Like it's really dumb that I hit A to give my dog a treat and X to talk to it. And if I want to go talk to the squirrel, I have to hit X to talk to it. X to give it a treat and A to talk to it. Like that's nonsense. It shouldn't be backwards like that. Yeah. Like
I came across that in a number of places as well. And the thing that really annoyed me was the button to put something into your shipping bin is the same button that eats something. Mm-hmm. And there's no confirmation on eating something, and you have to be one thing is that their alignment is very times, so you can be standing facing the shipping bin right up against it and it doesn't know you're there, so you then walk up, you're there, you press A and oh no, I've eaten my milk. Great.
Yep.
Like that's really annoying.
Yeah, it's very much an across the board thing too. Like I wonder, there was I feel like there was probably a miscommunication happening when this was in development, because it's not just like the animals, like you use X to open the shipping bin if you want to like look what's inside the
and
shipping
A
bin.
for the other
but
one.
you use A to use other things, like just the control. Nothing is consistent in the control mapping across most of the game, and that is very frustrating.
Yeah. No, I would definitely agree with that. It's not. I don't think it's something that ruins my experience of the game. It is a bit annoying, and there are some times where it really frustrates me. But that specifically, I don't think has. So I think when we did our original Doraemon episode, I said that this could possibly be my favorite farming game. I think I've now downgraded it to second favorite. I think Stardew has overtaken it again, and I think it's because of all these little slight annoyances.
Yes,
it's nothing big. It's nothing like huge. Like, oh, this has ruined it for me. But it's just lots of little things that after more time playing, I've realized it's just. Stardew really gets the little details.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the little things that can make or break something.
Yeah. And Stardew definitely has more automation things.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things, like what it is that it's like putting speed bumps on a road. Like you can still drive over them and get down the road, but it's going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
And not necessarily be as pleasant of an experience.
Agreed. Unless there's something else you want to bring. I want to bring up one more point before we finish. Is there anything else you want to?
I would love to hear your one more point. I'm basically done.
Right.
That was my complaint.
There's one more point, and it's to do with the save games. Why is there why is there no confirmation that you're going to overwrite one different game with your current save file? Right, so if you click on, it's just right. The whole saving is a mess when you have multiple saves. Right, if you created one game and you're only going to use that one game and you're going to save that, that's fine. It works perfectly. Right, if you create a second game in the list, in the second place in the list, because that's the natural place to do it, when you go to save that game the second time, it will bring up the three save slots, and it will default to selecting the top one, which is not the game that you're currently in. It's the other game. If you then select that, the normal "would you like to save the game" pops up, and if you click yes, there's no "oh, by the way, you're overwriting another game." There's nothing about that at all. You're immediately, that's it, you've saved over it, you've lost your other farm. Right? Thankfully I didn't do this, but that is really annoying. The other thing is that there's no way to reorder the saves or delete a save. So what I ended up doing was I went into my old farm, saved it into the third place, and then went back into this farm and saved it in this top place so I wouldn't overwrite it. But now I have two versions of this farm because there's that second slot that has an old version of this farm. And there's no way to delete that, and there was no way to rearrange them. That's really annoying. I don't know why it doesn't have why the default way of doing things would be to just you load a save. So when you create a new game, you choose which one to slot it into, and if it has a game currently, it says "would you like to overwrite this one?" You say yes, that's fine. Then when you're actually saving in the game, it saves over that same slot and doesn't give you the option to save over another slot. Right? That's how I know Stardew doesn't have like manual save, but that's how Stardew works, right? It just saves in that slot because that's where it's going to save.
Yeah.
And if you want to delete, you can delete on the main screen, or you can create a new one in another slot. I don't know why it has this weird idea of you can save in any of the slots from any game and overwrite it without any confirmation at all. It's such an odd thing, and I was so close to doing it multiple times.
It feels like something from early last decade games. Like that's the kind of design choice it feels like. Does that make sense? It
does, but it's not even that good. Like, so someone reminded me that when you played Pokemon Red or Blue, it would come up and saying if you went to save and if you create a new game and you go to save, it would say you're going to overwrite a different game. So it doesn't even have that, and that was what 20 odd years ago, nearly 25 years ago for the original versions. Like, it doesn't even have this concept of these are two separate games. Are you sure you want to overwrite this other one with this game?
I don't know. It's just like, it's, for me, first of all, I 100% agree on the save issues. I will also add to that getting to save is not easy.
So time consuming.
Yeah, it's basically like hidden in the settings, essentially, is what it is.
Having said that, it does quick save every time you go to sleep. So if you don't save very often, you don't lose much if you do something. So that's good. What they do there, that's good. Yes.
But like, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's not that it's unmanageable and it doesn't ruin the game, but it makes the user experience just a little bit less pleasant and just a little bit more frustrating. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, if it was just one thing, that would be fine. Yeah. It's just like, oh, they messed up that one little thing. But there's a number of little things like that. So
I mean, I would take one small issue in that you say it doesn't ruin the game. That one could have ruined the game because I might have overwritten my old save. And
True.
And that would have been, I think that would have been the point where I go, I'm not playing this game again because I put a lot of time into that save game. And if I start playing this game again in a couple of months when I'm over the new games that are coming out, I will load up that game. I'm not going to load up the challenge game because that's something that I'll probably keep around, but I'm probably not going to play this save file again. And if I don't, we've probably talked about this before, I don't like starting these games. I never like the beginning of these games. They always feel really slow and boring to me. And so if I've overwritten the save file that I want to play, I'm just not going to do it.
And I mean, like, I don't know very many people who don't get really stressed and frustrated and just want to rage quit a game if they lose their save. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it takes a special kind of person to like not feel the immense frustration that comes from losing dozens of hours of work on something.
I remember that time that I was using the trade clone glitch in Gen 1 Pokemon and lost my Pokemon Yellow save, and I was devastated.
That's ruthless.
It was.
I'm generally one of those people, like, I'm usually okay losing things. I call it my sticker philosophy. Once a sticker is stuck, it's stuck. It's done. You can never change it. If you lose whatever it's on, or if whatever it's on breaks down, or if the sticker wears away, it's just gone forever. And I'm okay with that. Like, I have come to accept that in my life, that like I just will eternally be replacing my sticker stash. I'm a sticker person. I don't know if you noticed. And I sort of have that philosophy in games where it's like, if I lose a save file, I'm like, well, I guess I have to experience that fun thing again. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't typically get stressed out about that stuff, but there have been times when I have. Like, there's very specific, like, I lost an Animal Crossing town once that was like as 100%ed Animal Crossing as you can be. And that was frustrating. Like, that's how I know, like, it's very much, it's not about like, oh, I'm going to have to do it again sometimes. It's about like, I put in so much work to this because like Animal Crossing, I don't know if you know this, but Animal Crossing is real time.
Yeah.
And to get Animal Crossing New Leaf 100%ed, like it's essentially boiling down to, do you have all of the catalog? Do you have all of the museum? And have you completed your badges? So do you have all gold badges? So there's badges in New Leaf that are like, how many fish have you caught? And it's, bronze, gold, silver. And there's a lot of those that are really hard to do. Like, there's a visit other people's towns where you have to visit hundreds of people's towns to get the gold badge.
Yeah.
It's hugely time consuming. It's really hard because, it's 3 or 4 years of your life,
yeah.
And that's not something that can be easily built up. And so like, even I, the most patient person with that, have like that line that once you cross it, it's just stressful and it makes you want to rage quit. And I didn't play Animal Crossing for months after that. And that's like my classic everyday game. So like, like I know that line is a lot lower for most people. And so like the idea that you could hit that line with one simple button press, or like, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. I have a dog and the dog will come and like put her head on my hand if my hand's on my Switch and make me hit a button. And the idea that could lose me an entire save is very frustrating.
Yeah. So I think kind of summary is that there are a lot of annoyances that we've kind of, all in all, it's still one of the best farming games out there.
Oh, yeah.
Still highly recommend.
It's a great game.
As we mentioned, even if you have never heard of or care about Doraemon, it's a good farming game in its own right. It's not just a spin-off. Mm-hmm. It's not just a side game. It is a really good game in its own right.
It's very fun and you should play it. It's worth it.
Just don't bother taking your chickens outside.
Don't do it. It's I have decided that my ideal number of chickens to own in this game is 2.
So you can give them the attention they deserve. I think it's interesting that this has just kind of reinforced my I don't like looking after animals in farming games. Like, I like having them so I can get everything from them, but I just want the eggs and the milk. Like, I don't actually care about the animals.
I'm just like, one of each, please.
My chickens were literally called chick 1, chick 2, chick 3, etc.
Half of my animals have actual names and half of my animals are just like horse. Like, I was just like, I don't have time for this, but also I still have to name a sheep Jody and I still have to name my dog Archie, so I still have to name a chicken Mildred.
This is actually where Stardew got something really right. The randomize a name is amazing.
I love
have names
to just do
but I don't have to care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I literally just write chick 1 because I'm like, why do I have to type a name? Why does it matter? I don't care. It's a chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I won't get into another rant about how I don't like playing with animals in the games. But, anyway.
You know what? If the listeners would like to guess whether or not I name my Pokemon, they can tweet at us. You can reach the podcast on Twitter at THSPod, or you can email us on our website, harvestseason.club. What about you, Al?
If you want to complain at me for my lack of love for the animals in the game, you can find me on Twitter at thescottbot. Scott has 1 T.
And if you want to tell me your favorite Pokemon or guess whether or not I name my Pokemon, you can tweet at me at Miss Delaney, with Delaney having 2 L's in there. Until next time, you can join our Patreon. It's horrible.
When you hear this episode, it will be a new month, and that's the perfect time to get onto the Patreon, because that gives you the most amount of time for your money to find all our things. There will have been 3 episodes in our bonus feed.
Yeah, go join. Get in now while it's hot, while we're starting to do things like make polls to ask what games we should be covering next and things like that. So
yeah. That's at patreon.com/thspod.
We try and be consistent.
Yeah.
And until next time, have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Rochelle Delaney and Al McKinley. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, theharvestseason.club, for show notes, including links to things we discussed and transcripts for every episode. Thanks for listening.
I mean, it strikes to me not so much as trade-in value, but, you know, when you have companies that pay you in company currency, and then you can only use that currency in the company shop, and then
you're not helping with the dystopian interpretation of this game.
I feel like they're kind of going all in on that, and they've seen the criticisms of it and just gone, well, let's just go with it then. Why not? It's a dystopia. Sure, fine.
You're like, this is the nicest dystopia I've ever been to.
I mean, that is a legitimate point. You know, it may have some issues, but it is a lovely island.
Yeah.